The school day is filled with the usual noise of students chatting about their lives. Amidst this typical high school atmosphere, Takuya sits quietly. He is a first-year student who identifies as an otaku, but he admits to himself that he is not the standard type. While most people in his position might like mainstream anime, Takuya is deeply and secretly obsessed with a show intended for young girls called Glittery Mon Pets, or Glittermon for short. He feels a surge of quiet excitement because he finally obtained an exclusive, limited edition Glitterman eraser. He reflects on the nature of the show, noting that while it airs on Sunday mornings for children, it is famous among older fans for having an incredibly dark and deep story hidden behind its cute characters. He knows that some people even joke that it belongs in a late-night adult time slot because the plot can be so grim. Although the current season is not as popular with the general public, Takuya firmly believes it is the best work the series has produced so far. His quiet moment of pride is interrupted when Kotoko suddenly leans over and tells him she is borrowing his eraser. Takuya panics, trying to stop her, but Kotoko doesn't understand why he is making such a big deal out of a simple piece of stationery. He tries to explain that the eraser is very special to him. Kotoko looks at the character on the eraser and assumes it is a famous Pokemon. Takuya nervously corrects her, stating that it is actually from Glittermon. Kotoko admits she has never heard of it and asks if it is even popular, since it looks the same as other cartoons to her. Takuya watches her, thinking about how Kotoko is a typical airhead gal whom he usually finds difficult to handle. She is always seen with her friend Amane, a tall, cool girl who looks like a professional model. Takuya feels a sense of dread because he believes that girls like them are never kind to people like him. Kotoko shows the eraser to Amane, calling it a Pikachu, but Takuya can't help himself and corrects her again. He explains that the character is Kepi, the lead character's partner, and mentions that he first appears in episode 4 to battle with green gems. Suddenly, the aloof Amani speaks up, bluntly telling him that he is wrong, and that the character actually appears in episode 2. Takuya is stunned that she knows such a specific detail. Kotoko continues to rummage through his things, finding another toy called Sketchy that makes its eyes pop out when a button is pressed. She finds this hilarious and asks Takuya what the show is actually about. Takuya feels a rush of excitement because this is the exact question every fan wants to be asked, but he quickly catches himself. He worries that if he starts rambling about his hobby, the girls will think he is disgusting. Amane notices the tension and tells Kotoko that it is best if she sees the series for herself, promising to bring her the comic the next day. She claims that she only knows about it because her little sister is obsessed with it. Later, Takuya hides in the bathroom to check the episode guide on his phone. He discovers that Amani was right about the character's first appearance. He finds it hard to believe that a popular girl like her could be a fan of an obscure children's show, but the evidence is starting to pile up. After school, Takuya sees Amani turn down an invitation to karaoke from her friends. Sensing an opportunity, he follows her and tries to talk to her. Amani immediately gets defensive, telling him not to get the wrong idea, and insisting again that her sister is the only reason she knows anything about the show. Takuya apologizes for assuming things, but then he pulls out a limited edition keychain he has. Amani's cool mask slips for a moment as she gasps, recognizing it as a rare color variation that was only available with the first printing of the manga. She accidentally reveals that she tried to buy it at 3 different stores before catching herself and saying it was her sister who wanted it. Takuya offers to give it to her since he has a spare, and Amani accepts it, still maintaining the lie that it is for her sibling. Takuya thinks to himself that she is incredibly cute when she isn't being so distant. The following morning, Kotoko arrives at school with her usual high energy, greeting everyone she sees. She sits down in front of Takuya and playfully pretends to be a UFO beaming up his eraser again. Takuya realizes she forgot her own school supplies and offers to let her use his. He notes that Kotoko has been talking to him more often lately since her seat was moved, and while he appreciates the kindness, he still feels like he needs some personal space. Kotoko notices a different character on his eraser and calls it Squirrely. Takuya is shocked that she actually knows the name and asks if she watched the show. Kotoko explains that Amane lent her the manga version. Takuya loses his composure and starts geeking out, explaining how impressive the manga adaptation is for keeping the dark tone of the anime while expanding on the characters. He quickly stops and apologizes, fearing he has creeped her out, but Kotoko tells him not to rush and says she is actually listening. She tells him that he reminds her of a character named Rocket Man because they both have big round eyes and blush easily. Later, Kotoko asks if Takuya uses a social media app called Minsta. Takuya is hesitant because he uses his account to post his drawings and photos of his Glittermon collection, Kotoko ends up seeing his phone and discovers his hidden account. Takuya has a brief flashback to past trauma where people bullied him for having an account full of anime stuff, and he prepares for the worst. However, Kotoko is genuinely impressed. She tells him his drawings are good, and that she respects how devoted he is to his hobby. She then grabs his phone and takes a selfie of the two of them together, telling him he should post photos like that once in a while to show he is a serious collector who also has a life. Takuya begins to wonder if gals really can be kind to people like him. On another day, Takuya is riding the train and feeling very depressed. In the latest episode of the show, a character named Patch was killed off while protecting another character. Takuya is devastated because Patch was a complex and mysterious character who gave good advice despite being an enemy. He feels lonely because he has no one to share his grief with. Just then, he spots Amani on the train. She looks exhausted. Her eyes are red from crying, and she lets out a massive sigh. Takuya realizes immediately that she must be mourning Patch too. Two other boys on the train notice Amani and comment on how she looks even more attractive while looking sad. They then talk about a technical patch for a video game they are playing, which causes Amani to react suddenly because she thinks they are talking about the character. Takuya is now convinced that Amani is a secret otaku just like him. Back at school, the drama continues as a popular student confesses his love to Amani, but she turns him down. Takuya watches from a distance as other girls ask Amani what she spends her money on, since she doesn't seem to buy much skincare or expensive clothes. Amani almost says she saves it for Glitterman merchandise before quickly changing her answer to glittery accessories. Takuya notices a rare charm on her bag that is a replica of a magical wand from the show. He knows it was a very limited edition item and feels a surge of jealousy and admiration. Amani notices him staring and pulls him aside to give him the usual excuse about her sister forcing her to buy matching items. Takuya ignores the excuse and tells her that Patch died the day before and that he cried all night. He asks her directly if she really hates the show. Amani almost breaks, admitting she has it bad, before quickly reverting to her sister excuse. Kotoko happens to walk by and asks if they are dating because they are standing so close. Amani panics and tries to explain, but Takuya is so overwhelmed by her physical proximity that he can barely function. During class, Takuya realizes with horror that he left his math textbook at home. He knows the teacher for this period is the scariest one in the school and will be furious if he sees Takuya without his materials. He tries to hide his mistake by putting a different book on his desk. The teacher begins calling on students to read in order of the seating chart, and Takuya realizes his turn is coming up. Kotoko turns around and asks for a red pen, noticing his empty desk. Before the teacher can get to Takuya, Kotoko raises her hand and lies, telling the teacher that she is the one who forgot her textbook. The teacher tells her to share with a neighbor, and Kotoko chooses to sit with Takuya. She whispers to him that his plan to use a math book was hilarious, but would never have worked. She tells him she is covering for him as payback for all the times he lets her borrow things. Takuya is touched that she would take the blame for him. After class, Amane and Kotoko turn down more invitations to go to karaoke. Takuya reflects on how popular and beautiful they are, feeling that they live in a completely different world than an introverted otaku. He decides to focus on his own excitement for the day, the release of Glitterman blind boxes at a local shop. He rushes to the store, hoping to get a rare figure. When he arrives, he is surprised to see Amane and Kotoko already there. Amane uses her sister excuse one more time, but Kotoko just laughs and says they ran into Otaku-kun. They explain that they skipped karaoke because they didn't like the crowd and wanted to get the new toys. Takuya feels like he should leave and let them have their space, thinking that their worlds aren't compatible. However, both girls grab him before he can walk away. They tell him that they should all buy their figures together. Kotoko says she is buying one to help Amane find the one she wants, and Amane asks Takuya if he will trade with her if he gets a specific villain character. Takuya agrees, and the three of them open their boxes. Takuya gets the character he wanted. Kotoko pulls an extremely rare secret figure, and Amane gets a patch figure. They all celebrate together, and Takuya finally decides that maybe gals really can be kind to otaku after all. The atmosphere in the classroom feels lighter another day, as Kotoko brings up a specific Glittermon story that she found particularly exciting. She describes a scene involving a tough-looking character with a lot of energy, struggling to recall exactly where it happened. Takuya is unsure if she is referring to the manga or the anime, but Amani effortlessly identifies it as episode 4 of the anime. Takuya is once again floored by her specialized knowledge. Amane quickly retreats into her usual defense, insisting that she only knows because her little sister is obsessed with that particular episode. Takuya reflects on how wonderful it feels to finally have people to talk to about his passion. When Kotoko asks how many episodes the series has, Takuya explains that there are 14. Amane adds that the second Blu-ray volume is launching soon, mentioning that the first volume contains a rare episode 0 as a bonus feature. Takuya notes to himself that she is clearly a dedicated fan despite her claims. Kotoko is immediately curious about the hidden episode, and Takuya offers to lend them his copy. Kotoko takes it a step further, suggesting they go to his house after school to watch it together. This suggestion sends Takuya into a state of pure panic. He tries to argue that his house is a mess, and assumes Amane wouldn't want to hang out with a boy, but Kotoko teases him about having secret things he doesn't want girls to see. Takuya nervously admits that he has a lot of fan art he has drawn, which only makes Amane more determined to go. She tells him that they are definitely going because she wants to see his drawings, claiming her sister asked her for art lessons. Before Takuya can process what is happening, Kotoko declares that the trip is officially on. Upon arriving at Takuya's apartment, Kotoko is surprised to find that his room is actually quite clean. Amane immediately asks to see his drawings, while Kotoko starts looking for his old school yearbooks. Takuya is overwhelmed by the presence of two popular girls in his private space, feeling completely out of his element as he has never invited anyone over before. Amane is stunned to see a limited edition Lord Earth prize figure in his collection, admitting she tried to win one many times without success. When Takuya tries to hand them the discs so they can watch at home, Kotoko grabs his hand and insists they watch together right now. The physical contact makes Takuya feel numb with nerves. Amane calls Kotoko's behavior harassment, but the group eventually settles in. Takuya warns them that he can be a noisy viewer, explaining that he likes to provide running commentary on the animation and direction. Amane surprises him by revealing that she goes even further, using glow sticks and yelling at the screen. As they watch the episode, the room fills with high-energy commentary. They get excited over a character named Michi and the arrival of a mysterious, beautiful girl who is a fan favorite. Takuya realizes he is having the time of his life, being allowed to be his true self without judgment. However, as the room is dark and the characters on screen face a tense moment, Amane leans in close to Takuya. He becomes intensely aware of her proximity and her pleasant scent, making his heart race so fast he loses track of the show. Kotoko notices the two of them close together and sneakily takes a blurry photo on her phone, which Amane demands she delete immediately. After the viewing, Kotoko mentions that Takuya has been posting his art on social media. Amane asks for his account name, and Takuya shyly shares that he goes by the name Otaki Ocean. He is shocked when Amane reveals that she is already one of his 50 followers. She explains that she uses a private account just for browsing and found his work while searching for Glitterman art. Takuya is deeply touched and a bit embarrassed that she has been following him in secret. The conversation turns to another famous artist, Glitter Oji-san, whose work they both admire. Takuya observes that the way they talk about art makes it seem like they have a secret connection. He ends up giving Amane a drawing lesson on his tablet. As Amane focuses on her work, Kotoko lies down on Takuya's bed, looking a bit bored but admitting she is used to people ignoring her to talk to Amane. The girls discuss how annoying it is when guys are too obvious about their interest, and Kotoko asks Takuya which of them is more his type. To avoid the awkward question, Takuya shouts that his favorite is Sachiko, the main character of the anime. When the girls finally leave, they tell Takuya they had a great time and call him a friend. Takuya is left alone in a room that suddenly feels much larger and emptier than before. He can still smell their fragrance, and starts having vivid hallucinations of the girls still being in his room, which keeps him from sleeping at all. The next day, Takuya is a nervous wreck at school. When Kotoko leaves early to run errands, Takuya finds Amane alone and decides to confront her about her social media account. He argues that if she is following him and liking his posts, she must be an otaku herself. Amane tries to claim the account belongs to her young sister, but Takuya points out that a third grader wouldn't be following a high school boy's art account. Eventually, they agree to do a live reaction chat over direct messages during the next episode of Glitterman. When the episode airs, Takuya is bombarded with messages from Amane. She drops her aloof persona entirely, sending a constant stream of excited texts. Takuya feels pressured to prove his own love for the series and spends the entire day messaging her back and forth. The following morning, Amane returns to her cool, distant self at school. Takuya worries that he might have been too aggressive with his messaging, but Amane approaches him and tells him he was great the day before. She even asks for another round of chatting. Kotoko overhears this and gets the wrong idea, thinking they are talking about something more scandalous. Amane tries to claim they were talking about the weather, but Kotoko remains suspicious. Later, Takuya is shopping at a supermarket and manages to find a rare Glitterman pillowcase in the children's section. While he is celebrating his find, he runs into Kotoko, who is there with her little brothers. She is dressed casually and is not wearing any makeup, looking completely different from her usual flashy self. She is flustered and begs Takuya to keep her normal appearance a secret. Takuya agrees, noting that while she is worried about her bare face, she doesn't seem to mind the physical contact as she leans in close to him. Her little brothers even ask if Takuya is her boyfriend, which makes him even more flustered. Back at school, Takuya tells Amane where he found the pillowcase, sending her the location via direct message. Kotoko finds out they are friends on social media and demands to be added as well. She expresses frustration because Amane usually ignores her messages but seems to respond to Takuya immediately. Amane explains that it is because Kotoko always tries to turn a simple message into a long phone call. Takuya feels a deep sense of happiness realizing that he finally has real friends. However, that night, his phone buzzes with 2 separate messages. Kotoko invites him to go see a movie over the holiday break, while Amane asks him to take her to the anime store. Takuya is left staring at his phone, realizing he has received 2 separate invitations for the same day.